So hello, this is Pixie. Did a little video and a drive around at night. So it was quite interesting. It kind of got some information come through my mind earlier, and it was to do with the abductions you get, and well, it's really the cattle mutilation. And what's possibly going on with why they're getting mutilated. The information was that these probes or whatever's coming to harvest them is collecting something from the cows, which is obvious, you know, think, oh, blood or whatever, but there's something internally inside the cows already there. So whether it's an entity that's feeding off the cows, or maybe it's something that comes out of the cows that's collected afterwards. It'd be very strange if the thing was something between organic and synthetic. It'd be a very creepy life form. It's just that if it can almost burn things off, then it must have either something corrosive about it. So could the entity have something? I think they would probably test for sulfur. If they're finding sulfur or anything else like that, this thing can burn. It has an acidic quality about it, which could explain why once they've had the sanguina or blood loss anyway, the actual cow doesn't bleed hemorrhage out of itself. Sanguination, I was just thinking of the terms they use, and yeah, so it doesn't hemorrhage outside of it, and it's probably already dead internally. So the best way to do that would be to affect it internally already. So was the heart shut down prior to it? So maybe it was even though it looks horrific, maybe it was a type of mercy killing. The actual thing in that it was killed in a particular way, whereby the cow was already dead before the extraction, or like I say, there's something inside it that's able to, like I say, burn its way out as well, and is draining it of blood and doing other things to it, and then maybe it's collected. So I do got to think about how us humans operate. We do put tracking devices and things inside people, and then collect data on them and information, and taking things out of them, it doesn't really make sense, does it? Like draining the blood and so on. Well, why not farm the animals yourself? Why not take the animals somewhere else? So something's travelled a long way to do that, and there's certain biological hazards if you take a being. So they don't want to take the being with them, the cow, because it wouldn't survive in their atmosphere, which is the big thing, is that we think as humans that all these Goldilocks planets out there have to have an oxygen-rich environment, and possibly there's a few variations, but because we seem to model everything on ourselves, and we seem to deny things. What we need to the approach is that we can't deny anything because we don't have enough information. It's not like we know everything that there is to know, and therefore we can pick and choose how we learn, what's right, what's wrong. We can choose to create a model of this universe and say it runs on these certain principles or certain laws, but the reality is that it doesn't, and we don't have all the answers. We only have a human perspective of the universe, and so the bizarre things happening to cows, it's likely it's happening internally. It'd be much more effective method, which means possibly there is, initially if you put something into a cow, you'd need to abduct it or do something to that cow to insert whatever's gone into it. And the other thing with cows is they've got more than one stomach, and they're kind of got quite a unique setup. They're large. I mean, they're quite easy to carry around things inside them. But why would you want to? The only way I can think of it is the actual atmosphere and the environment ideal for breeding or creating something inside them. I mean, if I was a human abducting beings from another planet, let's say, I went to say the moon had some sort of life forms, and I considered them primitive, but I wanted information on them, I would probably want to create an environment whereby I could breed them, and then I could actually farm them and harvest them that way. So it doesn't really make sense why I would want to come a long distance to farm someone else's animals, take bits of it and leave the rest. So why are they leaving the rest? Because they don't care. They don't actually care, and they probably think it's too advanced for us humans anyway to fully understand. But why take bits and bobs? So it could be that the animals similar to us humans, maybe initially it's created another creature like an egg, and then the egg is implanted into the animal. It absorbs all the nutrients from the cow, and then it'd need something. I mean, you'd have to have a detection device or something inside the actual cow, and the risks of it being found. You know, if you took a cow to a slaughterhouse. However, when they slaughter cows, I don't know. They just get rid of the guts and stuff. So if something was living in there, would they pick it up straight away? Because there'll be a chance of if these if egg implants into a cow, so something implants this egg, because it would have to have a parasitic nature to it. You know, it's like the cuckoo, it needs to live off another organism. So you're looking at something that's quite creepy there, something, you know, maybe we don't know enough about the aliens. We know about these interdimensional beings, but maybe we never get to see this other type out there. And what they're doing is they're using another being to spawn themselves. But they're not really using humans. But then humans aren't really great food source, you know? Because, I mean, but basically we just, we're not fleshy enough really and fatty enough as I'd like. However, looking at the way the world's run, it's to turn people into a kind of food source, essence. They're pumping people up with certain foods. They're being undernourished certain proteins. It could be that things that are considered toxic to other creatures, you know, they might like the iron in our blood and other things, but they might not want some of the stuff that we're made out of. But maybe a high sugar diet causes issues, or certain, you know, flavours to the meat, I guess. There's a big push for vegetarian diets, because they say that vegetarians taste better, because if people eat raw meats or not properly processed meats, they can pick up parasites, they can pick up other things that live in them, and basically anything else that eats us will be picking up these parasites. However, parasites exist everywhere, so they do exist in vegetables as well. You know, I've had experience when I was younger, and I went out, used to play in the garden and stuff, and I got some dirt on my fingernails, and I ended up having threadworms, and they were disgusting for little things. I've had them a couple of times. I used to bite my nails and fingers. I don't do now, but you know, that was a prime example of a parasite, and I got it from a non-meat source. So. You know, is the diet we're getting tailored to benefit another life form if it decides to eat us? So when people die and go to hospital and other things happen, when they go past the point where you don't see the body anymore, there may be a point where it might be traded in the black market, I mean, I don't know if anyone watches or figures out how many bodies from the hospital and where they go, and things like that. So there may be other stuff that's going on behind the scenes that's quite creepy, and it would mean that we've got some race around us that are subhuman in some way, or you know, there may be few of them, but there may be some sort of weird hybrids that are running this planet. You don't know. It's just one of these odd things, and all they do is they take on the identity of the rich and the strong and the powerful, and they eliminate their competition. And because they did it so early on, it's not questionable anymore. So certain bloodlines, however, they do have the same issues we do. They do age. They don't live forever, or they might need to do something else to them. I mean, certain people have just disappeared off the radar. So, and then some other people that don't seem to age or anything. So it's interesting. Definitely. So yeah, so I'm looking at it possibly is what the autopsy says about things internally. Is it easier to do something internally? And what is the end result? Because having a cow as fast food, I mean, you don't really need to bother. You can take the body with you. You don't have to suck out bits and bobs and dump the rest. Not unless you're something feeding off that being simply to develop and then go elsewhere. And the other reason is because biologically it must be similar to a life form that already exists there with them, or compatible genetically in some way. Seems like humans are less interested in this particular species that we know of, but however, we might be a part of the menu, or could be other issues like you know, vaccinations and things that don't get done to humans, or that humans are a delicacy like caviar, and if we do get consumed, we go to other beings. There's always talk about like pineal and brain and blight, the brain fluid and stuff like that. Now, if you drink the brain fluid, if you drink all that fluid, you'll drink the soul of the being. Because if you drained all the fluid in the brain, the entity would die instantaneous, as they said. I heard somewhere. You can't exist without fluid in your brain. And so it's in the brain and in the plasma where the spirit resides. I believe it's got a stronger connection for whatever reason. And so yeah, that might be a delicacy. Only thing is, the being might be absorbing some of the psyche of the being as well. There's stuff I've heard about blood transfusions and stuff like that, whereby the personality gets transferred across to the host, or they become like the person for a while. Almost like the doorway to possession is that you've got the blood of someone else inside you, and so they exist as well. They coexist in your body until, I guess, until it's absorbed. Sometimes people actually, their DNA mutates because of having another host inside them, and they kind of coexist as some being. So part of their consciousness is connected to this other soul, I guess. So it gets quite complicated. What's happening out there? But it was interesting, this insight, just to seeing this like a entity inside there, and what kind of entity. And then also with the other thing with these sort of alien beings, you know, greys and so on, there's an area where you can't really decide if they are something in the paranormal, another dimension, they come from another world. I mean, until we actually go to another world, I don't even know, you know, can we say they really exist, these worlds, or what they really are? Are they other dimensions in themselves? You know, if you radiate at a certain frequency, is the moon a lush paradise? Or are we just seeing the inner shell because we can't see the other matter on the outside of it? you know, maybe there's things on the moon looking at Earth, and Earth looks like a moon. So it's pretty messed up, really. I mean, especially if has a holographic nature in itself. I mean, that's, you know, like the program, you don't have the level up, so you can't go there, and you can't see it in itself because you don't have the access codes, and all you're seeing is what the basic computer looks like, which is just a ball of rock, or the representation of that. That's the only information you can have. Without to know it exists, you just got no access inside it, so it's pretty deep stuff, really. And there was stuff I come across about the moon. There was a point in time it never existed. Some of these cultures have certainly got that as well. So there's always a level of mystery there. So yeah, and I'm trying to think of other things that I might come across. So I mentioned I've got to do some stuff around some orgone and things like that. I had an issue with spider mites in the past, and you know, I kept on trying to kill them, I kept on doing everything. But basically, I just removed their food source for about a month or so. I did over the winter time. My hemp plants died off. I just stripped them off all the leaves, left them like that, and any other plants I removed. They're half eaten by things. I just got rid of them. And I did actually try to microwave the soil. I got these like gnatty creatures that turned up. They seem to be interested in the soil. They're a bit annoying, but since I've been watering the soil, they've just been interested in the soil. So I don't want them to. Basically, I don't want them to F with my plants. I have been killing them off if I can. They seem to. I think there must be something like manure or something in there, other organic stuff that they quite like in the soil, and that's where they come from. So they're buggers, really. But I might use some of my other technology I used before. I was experimenting by putting worms in a pot. Maybe I'll pop in the big pots. If they're big and they're open, I'll pop a worm in there. They might go around eating up the flies, eating up the fly larvae, or whatever in the soil. It'd be like June or something on a sort of different scale though. So as soon as the flies crawl around on the surface, it'll come up and eat it. Oh, it's a bit dodgy. Oh man, what are you doing? I'm the king. This guy. There's a problem, is if cars just want to chop through bloody roundabouts, it's difficult for me to negotiate where exactly I am. Look, what's going on here? We'll side block this bloke. Let this chap out, and then I'll drive forward. That's the way to do it. So yeah, I've got some experiments to do. Where's my mind at? It's pretty cool at the moment. I think it's alright now. Like I say, I was a little bit sort of traumatised and other things, because normally I don't enter in situations where I fall in love with female friends and then ruin it all or whatever. Well, I didn't ruin it all actually. What happened is that I became a lot more vulnerable than I usually am, and it's because I only wanted to help her as much as I could that I really put myself on the line. She was special, and she still is, simply because we share a lot of interests. However, that doesn't necessarily mean that there's a relationship there. It's just, I tell you what, it's all the gobbledygook on the internet and bloody things around flipping Disney. You watch things and you think, well, if I'd be the white knight and I sort all this woman's problems out, or I try to, you know, do anything noble as possible, all that happens is she'll probably take advantage of you. She'll probably resent you. Eventually she might reject you because she might think, well, you're trying to take over my life. So because you're trying to play out a character rather than just be yourself. And I don't know, it's a difficult ground. But then equally she might think, well, because he doesn't care and he's not bending over backwards for me, is he a chauvinist pig? Or I don't know. It's a very complicated area. I have to just study with female psychology. I don't tend to have any problems with the other females I know in my life. But however, they're usually older women. They know I've got no interest in them like that. And also working in my care field, you know, I'm often seeing, so many women a week naked anyway, or whatever, just sorting them out and taking care of them. And after a while, you get desensitised to it, so you're not really interested in women like that, and you just see them like just as a person, really. So that's just something weird. I mean, it seems weird at first, but after you've been doing it for about a year, you just think, okay, and you just you come across all sorts of things. You come across the dark side of people as well. And so, oh yeah, that's something interesting. I was thinking back, trying to think of something else that's come to my mind. So I did my Raja yoga. I usually do that every sort of Sunday. I do a little bit of that, and he was saying about some people have been reincarnated like angels that come back, but they want to re-experience on Earth and stuff. And I don't really know. I tell you what, I don't think I'm an angel, so I don't want people to write me, well, you think you're an angel. I probably have some strong spiritual connections that I'm not fully aware of or allowed to know the full extent of. And it could be that my bloodlines are connected with something of a spiritual entity, or they've mixed in some way, or connected with our family tree, or whatever. But there's a lot of spiritual stuff happens in the background, and I get a lot of people saying, "Oh, you're calling me an angel," and I think, well, I'm a nice guy, and I am supposed to do, well, as a carer, I'm supposed to have a lot of empathy, and maybe I am an empath or a starseed or something. Oh dear. So somebody's got to decide to give way, otherwise I'm going to be fucking here all day. Right, if I do, I can't fucking see you. So. What you got to do? One of you's got to go back. That's all. Fuck me. It's not exactly difficult, is it? Okay, I'll just sit and watch a punch up. Are you for real? Can't just reverse for fuck's sake? Just gotta let the red car out and we'll all go down the fucking road. Why has the red car got to go back? What's going on? Tell you what, don't get me angry, I'll drive your car for you, mate. I'll rip you out your fucking car and drive it for you. Because I don't want to stay in their fucking road all day. Because you've got a fucking beef. Oh, I know I should have done. Oh, fucking kids. Really are fucking kids. Slightly having a fight probably. Oh. People get